Welcome to the series CyberSec, A Way of Life. We have with us today Nikhil Sanghvi with us, who's the Director of Sales and Business Development and the Regional Head of the Middle East region for Arcon. He's here to share his insights on Arcon and give us a perspective on the Middle East from a cybersecurity industry perspective. Hi Nikhil, how are you?
Hey Roshan, thank you so much. I'm doing good. I hope you are doing good.
Absolutely, Nikhil. Thanks for asking. So, Nikhil, a long time in the Middle East, I believe over 12 years.
Yep. It's
Right.
been 12 years. Wonderful journey in Middle East and loving it.
I'm sure. What is the COVID situation for you guys there?
Fortunately, the situation over here, it's quite stable because the government is putting in a lot of efforts in terms of the regulations and all that stuff.
Right.
Overall, we don't see a challenge. The market has completely opened up. It's like back to normal days.
Okay.
I think in the next 1 month or two, we should be able to meet the customers face to face, which we all love it.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, talking from a cybersecurity perspective, Nikhil, you've been in the industry for a good 4 or 5 years, I believe. What, according to you, is the cybersecurity industry like in the Middle Eastern region?
Oh, very good point. So, Middle East as a region, it's always prominent in terms of accepting the new technology and the new challenges and all that. Okay, as you know, this region as Middle East is having a lot of geopolitical influence with the surrounding countries, wherein there are a lot of imbalances and all that. And the country, predominantly, if you see, most of the Middle East country are oil and gas driven economy. Okay, and some of the countries are driving towards the other areas also, not depending completely on an oil and gas. So for them, the cybersecurity is one of the very key initiative which is coming from the top of the government officials, okay, from the rulers of the country. Okay, overall, I believe the Middle East cybersecurity is in a very good state. No doubt, there are a lot of improvements which are also required, which goes over the period of the time as posture gets changes. But there has been a lot of efforts and initiatives been taken by the government organizations. They have set up various regulatory agencies, departments within the government organization to make sure that they're protecting the data, protecting the security of not only limited to the government organizations, but all the individuals, the citizens, and the companies who are operating out of the region. The complete data has been protected. Okay. And especially if you see in the Middle East, the GCC countries, which they are taking a lot of measures to improve the cybersecurity posture.
Right.
Okay. Lately, I've seen near about 30 to 35% of the UAE companies, they are already complied to the European Data Protection Standard, that is GDPR, which is a phenomenal efforts been done by the companies over here. Okay. And overall, if you see, there are a lot of initiatives by the government organizations. They are setting up some kind of a cybersecurity farm, some kind of some kind of an MSP provider to the government organization, so that each and every government organization don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Okay, so overall, if you see the state of cybersecurity in the region, it's quite good as compared to the other countries near to the Middle East region.
Okay, so then that brings me to my next question, Nikhil. Is what kind of shifts now? As per what you said, it's very. What I understand is that the Middle East is in a pretty higher stage of understanding cybersecurity with implementation, right? What kind of shifts do you see now post the pandemic? What kind of shifts are happening in the cybersecurity space?
So, Roshan, if you see, as I've covered up in my previous point, that there is a lot of initiatives which has been done by the government.
Right.
Okay, so they are coming up with the lot of cybersecurity laws and the regulatory laws. Okay, be it from the banking or the financial services, or from the telecom, or for the government organization, or for an enterprise organizations.
Right.
And some of the key measures which has been taken up by the various GCC countries includes the cybercrime law, or the data protection law, or the cybersecurity strategy law, as well as they have come up with the cybersecurity organizations in each of the country. You will see they have the like in UAE, if you look at it in the UAE, you have the NESA, you have the the ADA, you have the ETSIC, and there are a lot of laws, a lot of organizations who are helping the not only the government organization but also the enterprises over here. And you extend it when you go to the Saudi Arabia, you have the NCA. When you go to Qatar, you have the QCert. So if you see every country, they are coming up with an organizations, they are coming up with the policies, they are coming up with the reg part. Okay, and they are somehow helping the organizations not only to make them to follow the law, but also helping them to implement that particular the regulatories what the organizations are suggesting. Okay, and if you see there are a lot of trends around going around in the Middle East with regards to this, the shift in the cybersecurity is that most of the organizations, they have moved the CISO getting reported directly to the board or to the CEO of the organization, and not limiting them into the part of the CIOs. And that's a major shift because the security is getting viewed as one of the major area, okay, by the board. Okay, and there is a lot of investment which is going around on the security. Okay, not only protecting the external peripherals part, but also on the internal access perspective, the identity perspective, the data perspective. Okay, the major shift what I've started seeing lately is that a lot of organizations are going for a cybersecurity insurance. Okay, and this is something really a phenomenal shift what I've seen in last 6 months, where the companies not only investing into the security solutions or the security technologies, but they're moving towards getting the insurance done of the cybersecurity posture. I have also seen that the organizations are not limiting about buying a security product for a specific need, but they are going towards the approach of not only a SOC operation, but more of a security as a service, which means that you are not only getting a specific area of the security, but overall, the security framework coming in from the organization. So there are a lot of organizations now who have started providing as a cyber fusion services or a security services.
Okay, so I think it's very clear that the stress upon cybersecurity has been amplified by the government to a very large extent.
Yup, very large extent, and they are investing. The government organization are investing. Even though the last year was bit, because of the COVID, people were not in the office. There were a lot of decisions which were being delayed. Okay, but this year in 2021, I have personally seen a lot of shift. I've not seen the RFPs what are coming up. They're more towards making sure that the entire security framework has been protected, and they're looking out for a vendor. They're in fact looking out of consolidation of the vendor, and that's very important because you will see in the security you have baskets of solution addressing your different areas of the security. And as a customer now, they have started realizing is that how can I go and have a vendor who can give me all the areas, all the parameters of the security, and getting the best in class of the solutions, not limiting the investment to go for a tier 2 or a tier 3 kind of a solution which is just for a temporary purpose. They are looking out to implement security not only from the compliance perspective, but taking it very seriously and making sure that the environment is completely protected. Lately I was speaking with a couple of the CEOs, and when I asked them, what do you think how do you think security? So he's saying it's no longer an IT security or a cyber security, it's more about a business security. True. If I don't invest in, I will lose my business.
True. So that means that it's the perfect time for Archon, right, to be in this industry because, in addition to that, Archon is also the leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for privilege access management. How do you feel about that? And is there more pressure in being a part of the leader in the Gartner's Magic Quadrant?
Firstly, I would like to say that I'm very proud being associated with an Archon, and Archon being the only Indian IT security product company which has been there in the Gartner Magic Leader Quadrant.
Right.
Okay. Definitely, there is a pressure. When you have been started looking at as a leader, okay, the customer expects a lot from you. They not only expect you to, have the solution which is of that leadership part, but they expect a lot of things to come from you, more from they look out you as a consultant, they look out you as you're already expert in that particular subject. Okay. Right. So it's a lot of pressure, definitely, internally from the organization and externally also. So no doubt there's a lot of pressure, but it's a fun pressure. It's a pressure which we will love to have, and I'm glad that I'm enjoying that particular pressure.
Right. So, Archon being in the Magic Quadrant, is that impacting the perspective of Archon when you go to your clients?
Definitely, it is impacting the perspective because, as I've mentioned, a lot of government organization now they've started shifting the view. They started change. They're looking the way how they look at security or a solution is being changed. They want the best of the breed of the product. Okay, and definitely in this part of the world, customer whenever they want to evaluate a particular product, they look out at the Gartner very strongly. And being in the Gartner, you go directly into the eyes of the top management. Arcon, no doubt, is the leader in the Middle East geography today. If you see, we are the highest number of the customer in the Middle East geography. People know us. We have created our brand value in the market.
Right.
But getting along with the brand value, being recognized by the analyst as a Gartner and being in the Magic Quadrant, it definitely brings in a lot of value. And we have started seeing that the RFPs, customers have started reaching out to us. Customers started reaching out to us more. We are getting the RFP we were getting more RFPs what we were getting less than compared to the last year. It's definitely a lot of value. Being part of the Gartner Magic Quadrant leader, being in the leader of the Gartner Magic Quadrant.
True. Now, apart from being the leader in the Magic Quadrant, Archon is also recognized as a customer choice by Gartner. What kind of feedback do you get from your current customers and prospects and your partners from this recognition? Does that help in any way?
Oh, very well. Archon, the DNA of the Archon itself is we are very customer focused organization. We always tend to make sure that what we are promising to the customer, we are delivering that to the customer. We always make sure that the customer get the best of the thing. It's not that we are selling the product to the customer. We always believe that we are partnering with the customer. And we are making sure that our partner ecosystems are also working along with us and they are happy around that. Right. So I'm hearing a lot of positive feedbacks from the existing customers as well as the new prospect, because when they speak with our customer, they get to hear a lot of good things about what Archon is doing, how Archon is supporting the existing customer, what innovation, what Archon is bringing year on year. So Archon as a company, we are investing a lot on the innovation of our product. We are investing a lot in terms of the technology advancement, feature enhancement, the functionality enhancement, the experience of the customer, and this all goes as a part of our support package to the customer. So customers see the value that we are not a money-oriented company, but we are more of a service-oriented company. And that is what has been spread in the market. Middle East as a market is more of a word of a mouth. Right. So, our customer really speaks out. When they are happy with it, they speak out. And I'm so glad that a lot of the reviews of the customer choice has come from the Middle East geography from my customer, because they are getting the lot of value what we are promising to them.
True. I absolutely agree with that, Nikhil, because apart from being customer centric, Archon has experienced tremendous growth over the last few quarters. How does that make you feel as a company?
Being part of the Archon and being part of leading this Middle East function, I feel really great, and I feel proud of myself that yes, I'm one of the salesperson for the organization.
Right.
And I have contributed for Archon to have a remarkable growth. Okay, not limited to the Middle East geography, but across all the geography.
True.
Lately, we have since last one and a half year, we have ventured out from our core area, from our core operation area, that is Middle East, Africa and India continent. Right. We have expanded our footprint in the other part of the world. So it feels so good that we are a global organization and we have the customers spread across globally. Okay, and it's an amazing journey. What I've seen being in last 4.5 years in Archon, I've seen the way how we have transformed. Okay, in Middle East itself, we have seen that we are having every year on year we are having 100% growth, and we are the leaders in the Middle East geography in terms of the number of the customers. So I'm feeling super duper proud of that.
Absolutely. Now, which also makes me ask you that because of this growth, I'm sure you're interacting with a lot of your clients and. A lot of CIOs, CTOs is whom you're interacting with. Now, do you think has there been a shift in their roles or a shift in how they work before the pandemic and after the pandemic? How has their roles changed?
Surely. So if you see a couple of years back, hardly very few organizations used to have a dedicated role as a security or a CISO. Okay.
Right.
They used to have, a security person sitting in the company, making sure that the external security parameters, the peripheries and operations of the security has been there. Okay. But since last 3-4 years, there is a phenomenal shift over there. Organizations have started investing, getting a CISO whose role is more about making sure that there is a security framework, procedures, policies, the processes, and the people are also involved in the security part. Okay.
Right.
Now, if you see in the last 1.5 year, because of the investment what the organization has done, okay, by having the CISOs and by having the security managers, okay, and making sure that these guys are making sure that the CISOs are reported through the board, okay, it has really helped the organization to, during the pandemic part, because it was just within a couple of days, because having a right process and the policies, the knowledge base, okay, they were able to manage this pandemic part. Now, after the pandemic, what has happened is that there is, the focus has gone more towards the cybersecurity, because the organizations, the board of the organization have realized the importance of the security. Okay. And today, the CISOs are getting more visible within the organizations. Okay. I have started seeing when I'm interacting with the CISOs, they say that, hey, Nikhil, I'm going for a board meeting. I have a presentation with the board. So I have to present my security budget for the year, for the next year, and all that stuff. So if you see, there's a tremendous shift that previously the security was part of the CIO's team or part of the IT team. Now they are created as a separate team altogether, and they are directly going and reporting to the top management and to the board of the organization. Okay.
True.
So, the CISO has literally come into the limelight. Okay. No doubt the ultimate responsibility of the IT system lies in the hand of the CIOs. And the priorities have been changed. Like what I see is that the CIO is more focused towards the technology side, the digital initiative side, the cloud migration side, and all that. And CISOs work along with them, okay, to make sure that they have a proper delivery model and a proper security model in place.
Right.
So you'll see that there are a lot of these things are changing. The roles of the CIOs and the CISOs are changing, and it is going to change a lot. Okay, no doubt that it creates some kind of a natural tensions between the role, but at the end of the day, it is beneficial for the organization, because each one of them are focusing into the areas what they are expert into.
Right. I think the pandemic has got all sides into the forefront that we weren't aware of before. Like one of the things happening, the CIOs and the CTOs reporting to the board or working with the board directly. So it's a tremendous
tremendous change. Tremendous change.
True. Now, Nikhil, with work from home, of course, it has become a norm. What kind of tools or products do you think are a must-have for any organization to protect their data?
Very good point. So I would like to split this question into two parts. When you say work from home, it is work from home for the administrative users of an organization and for the normal business users of an organization.
Right.
So when an administrative users of an organization, they are connecting today remotely or from their home, okay, they are connecting to the data center, okay, which is spread across the globe today. Most of the companies, the data center is hybrid and a complex environment.
Right.
So when you look at from a norm perspective, the organizations are looking forward to have a proper privilege control for the access being done by the administrator. And these administrators are not only the employees of the organizations, but the solution service provider or an MSP provider or a software as a service provider or the security service provider or the remote workforce of an organization or an outsourced workforce for an organization or a vendor support. So these all are now connecting remotely, wherein a lot of time they used to come physically into the office, sit into the environment, and then you used to take an access. Now, making them connecting over the remote, the organization, the norm is getting changed. The organization are looking forward that they don't want to give a direct VPN access to anybody who can come in. They want to have a proper secure remote access framework built in for the privileged users as well as for the end users. So from a privileged user perspective, the organizations are looking forward to implement a privileged access management solution powered with the secure remote access. which means that even though they would have connected over the VPN or directly over the public IP, but everything is powered through the framework of a secure remote access, and the sessions are not getting executed on their machines, but it is getting executed within the organizations and getting it streamed on their laptops, which can be their own devices or which can be the company provided devices. At the same time, when you look at from the end user perspective, there was definitely a shift where the organization had the laptops or the desktop delivered to the user house so that their work is not impacted.
True.
Lately, I've seen that the organization have started investing into the technologies of the VDI. Some organization realized that okay, now it's a time for them to look at from a migration towards the cloud. So move the on-prem application towards the cloud so that the application can be accessed from anywhere and the users can use their own devices. Have this application powered with some kind of the secure remote access tool or more of an identity and access management tool, okay, which goes into the zero trust framework, which goes into the passwordless authentications and powered with a dual factor authentication and all that. Right. So as a work from home now, the organization are looking out for a different options. One of the things what I've seen mostly is that initially people went with VPN, they invested a lot. So all the VPN vendors, they made good amount of money. Then they went with the VDI. They still realized that it is not a secure way of an access. The organization has started realizing the power what secure remote access management framework and an identity and access management solution brings on the table, okay, to have a more effective, secure work from home.
Right, absolutely. Now, that's a lot of things that you mentioned, Nikhil. And of course, I think organizations have geared up to those levels. Talking about Archon, how do your offerings fit in to all these customers' needs?
Well, fortunately, Archon realizes this fact, and Archon has been always innovative in terms of bringing in the technology, helping our customers and helping the entire community. So if you look at, I'll just like to go back to a story of the word Archon. So the word Archon itself stands for risk control. Okay, and Archon being in the business of IT risk control solution, having the flagship product of privilege access management, which is protecting the privilege access of an enterprises today, Archon realized that okay, we have to also help the organization to meet the security, not limited to the privilege access, but get into the level of the end users of an organization. Okay, right. If you see today, Archon is not limited to only the privilege access management solution, but we have gone into a detailed footprint of an identity and access management. Okay, starting from a beautiful solution, which is Archon single sign-on solution powered with a passwordless authentication. Right. Okay, and that is one of the things which customers have started looking out over the traditional VDI solution or a VPN solution, because this single sign-on solution helps the organization to digitalize their identity and have it stored in an encrypted vault, making sure that nobody needs to know any credentials. The solution provides them a seamless access to the applications based on their rules. Okay, the users get happy because they don't have to remember the credentials of different applications.
True.
Okay, at the same time, Archon has extended into the managing the endpoints of the organizations for the privilege management, powering with the remote access and powering with the remote assist management. Okay, so that is helping the organization. If you look at from a work from home today, if I am working from home, I had an issue. I'll just give a classic example. I had an issue with my laptop last night. Okay, I just raised a ticket from my laptop to my support desk engineer. He immediately got a request. He connected to me. Okay, he checked my ticket remotely, and he didn't have to really connect to my machine as an administrator or something like that. He was able to support me remotely, and that's all was done because of having the Archon secure remote access management and the endpoint privilege management solution installed on my machine. Okay, as an Archon, we don't allow our users to install any kind of an open source technology solutions. Okay, so this has really helped out.
So Nikhil, what products of Archons are really working well in the Middle Eastern region? Do you have to make changes to your products in terms of customization for the Middle Eastern region specifically?
So Roshan, if you see over last 1.5 years, we have structured our solution under the larger segment which we call it as an access management suite,
Right.
okay, which covers the Archon flagship product, which is Archon Privilege Access Management.
Right.
Okay, along with the Archon Single Sign-On solution,
Right.
Archon Endpoint Privilege Access Management solution, Archon User Behavior Analytics solution,
Right.
and we also have the complete security framework solution for the customer, which includes the Archon Access Management solution, along with the identity and access management and secure compliance management solution also.
Right.
So over the last 1.5 year, what I've started seeing is customer are predominantly starting their journey on an identity and security, starting with the privilege access management, getting powered with the remote access management, and then the next phase what they are looking out is to have the security for the end users by providing them a digital innovation of managing their access. So that's more on the identity part. So it's this Archon single sign-on solution.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nikhil. Thank you for sharing all your insights, and I'm sure the viewers who want to watch this will get a good perspective on the Middle Eastern region.
Look
And
forward. Thanks,
absolutely
Roshan.
right.
Thank you, Roshan. Thank you
And
so much.
wishing Archon the best, all the best for the years to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Roshan, for your time. Thank you.
Thanks.
It was great to speak with you, Roshan. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.